Years ago, it was this party that spoke to and inspired a young teenager growing up on a council estate in Wales. It was this party that showed that same teenager that families on his estate could become homeowners for the first time. It was this party that gave that teenager's dad the chance to set up his own small business, ending long periods of unemployment. It was this party that said to that teenager it didn't matter that he didn't go to university, as he could still fulfil his dreams and aspirations. So what did the Conservative Party offer to that working-class kid from Wales? It gave him the privilege and the honour to serve as your Chief Whip. And Conference, we can be that party again, inspiring the next teenager and those voters who stayed at home or voted another way, that the Conservative Party is for them. Conference, this is a crucial time for our party, but it is also an exciting time. We have 4 fantastic candidates who will now set out their plans for their country. It's on me as Chief Whip, or whoever takes on this role, to lead the way in Parliament. And I ask you, our loyal party members, to do the same across the whole of the United Kingdom. North, South, East, West, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Because next year, we have a big test. As we face crucial local elections, it's imperative we help our excellent local councillors and candidates. We cannot let them down. It is vitally important that we come together because the country needs a choice and we must grasp that opportunity. So let's unite behind the next leader and let's take the fight to Labour, the Lib Dems and Reform, and let's win. Thank you.
Do you want a Conservative in opposition or a Conservative Prime Minister?
It's a simple question.
But it's the only question that matters.
Because whilst we can debate how we would do things differently the next time round,
none of it matters if we fail to defeat Labour.
That's why we're backing Tom Tugendhat to be the next Conservative Prime Minister.
Because he will serve our country.
He will lead with conviction.
And act decisively.
Not as a Conservative in opposition, but as a Conservative in Downing Street.
he served before and put his life on the line for Queen and country in Afghanistan and Iraq.
He's a proven leader,
delivering actual Conservative values in government.
As Security Minister, he's arrested more foreign spies in 2 years than in the previous 10.
And he isn't afraid to act. He stood up to our enemies around the world and was sanctioned by Russia, China and Iran because of it. We need a Conservative revolution.
A revolution that puts action over empty words. A revolution that unites our country around our core values.
family.
Freedom.
Aspiration.
That revolution can only be achieved with a Conservative Prime Minister.
So ask yourself,
Do you want a Conservative in opposition?
Or a Conservative Prime Minister?
Please welcome Tom Tugendhat.
Well, good morning, conference. Should we try that again? Good morning, conference. Much better. Look, it's good to be amongst friends after, let's face it, something that was pretty, frankly, bruising, that last election. Boy, did that hurt. And yet, 4 days here with all of you has helped turn my anger and my disappointment into optimism. I can feel the energy. I can feel the determination. I can feel the hope. You, the beating heart of our party, know there is a way back for us. I know we can and we will rebuild this party. I know we can and we will reconnect with the British people. I know we can and we will restore trust. And if we do that, we can and we will win again. But to do so, you know what it needs. It demands honesty. We've heard platitudes, not substance, in this campaign. Too much about personality, not enough about principle. Too much about change without saying how. And I'm standing before you today because I've had enough of the lack of substance, the lack of principle, the lack of clarity. My friends, I've had enough of Westminster's political games, petty point scoring, and self-service. It's not becoming of our great party or our great nation. We can do better. Now, I'm standing because what we need is leadership. I'm standing to lead not just this party, but to be the next Conservative Prime Minister of this great country. Now, friends, I know what leadership really is. Before I stood for Parliament, I was a soldier. I served our country and I faced our enemies. I know what leadership demands when everything else has been cut away and there's nothing left. Character is what remains. In Afghanistan and in Iraq, I served in combat alongside the best. And I've seen friends push themselves beyond their limits, and some made the ultimate sacrifice. But when it was hard, when it was tough, we kept going, even after we were knocked down and thought it was over. I know what drove them, and I know what drove me. It's leadership. And our country is crying out for leadership. And leadership is not about empty promises. It's not about cheap rhetoric or government by management consultancy. It's not about managing decline, and it's not about talking our country down. Leadership is about making choices that serve our country and our people best. I promise you that as your leader, I will serve our country. I will lead with conviction. I will act decisively. My mission is the prosperity and happiness of the British people. Together, we can win. Now, over hundreds of years, we have defended freedom around the world, and we've always known what our flag means. I'm proud to know that where it flies, our values are always defended. Britain has been on the right side of history, and I'm proud of our history. Unlike Labour, I will never apologise, ever, for who we are and the country that we can be. And from Churchill to Thatcher, our party has led the fight for freedom, united against the threats that we faced. But we need to face the truth. Many who share our values did not vote for us. So let me speak directly to those of you who have supported us in the past but didn't this time. If you went to Reform, I want to show you the Conservative values that we share. If you went to the Lib Dems, I want you to see the opportunities that only we can deliver. And if you went to Labour, I want to show you why freedom, not state control, is how we build. If you stayed at home, I want to make you proud to vote Conservative again. Now, I will grip this party so that we're ready to rescue our country from Labour. I will turn us from a Westminster club into a champion of Conservative voices, from Holyrood to Cardiff Bay and Stormont, and every council across our great country. I will defeat Labour and lead us back to power in 5 years' time. We all know that this country cannot afford Labour. You can't afford Labour, I can't afford Labour, Lord Ali can't afford Labour. But let's be honest, as a patriot, I want what's best for our country. So I always want our country to succeed. Labour have already shown us who they are. They are the most venal and vindictive administration in decades. Starmer isn't just making pensioners pay for his union paymasters. He's undermining freedom of speech in our universities. He's trashing our border security. Instead of keeping us safe, he wants to police smoking in beer gardens. He's freeing criminals, not standing up for the police. Now, I know what it's like when a Labour government doesn't have your back. The last Labour government left our troops without body armour in Iraq and without helicopters in Afghanistan. As your Prime Minister, I will never abandon those on the front line. Because, friends, I will always stand up for those who put their lives on the line to keep us safe. Because we are the Conservative Party, the party of security, the party of law and order. Now, Starmer is half right when he says that things will get worse before they get better. They will certainly get worse, I can promise you that. We're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do when we're back in 5 years' time. I hope you're ready. Because Starmer's bleak outlook is already hurting our country. His tax hikes are an attack on business, slowing growth and hurting families. His tax on education will cost everyone, either in higher bills or in larger class sizes. Now, they're even after 3-year-olds at nurseries. I mean, I tell you, Conference, Labour's new tax, it's quite literally a dummy tax. So when Keir Starmer talks about service, you will understand that I don't really believe him. That's not what we mean by service, is it, Conference? When I think of service, I think of our doctors and nurses, our teachers, our police officers, our armed forces. I think of those who sacrifice for our country every single day. That's service. When Keir Starmer thinks of service, he thinks of free tickets to Taylor Swift. Now, friends, that tells you everything you need to know. Labour have told us who they are. They're rudderless, selfish, and greedy. They're taking us back to the 1970s and the politics of division, socialism, higher taxes, more regulation, more control. The lowest common denominator. Trashing hopes and dreams. Conference, we have to fight to rescue our country. Now, the politics that drives me builds on the best in us and makes us stronger. So to those who want to divide us, I say this. I served with men and women of every religion and background with pride. We are one nation. We are one united kingdom. And the Conservative Party... The Conservative Party and our country are both built on the same thing. They're both built on patriotism and purpose. Patriotism brings us together, and purpose gives us each a stake in our future. So as Labour's mandate evaporates before our very eyes, we need to be ready. As your leader, I will rebuild CCHQ from the ground up, putting you back at the heart of our party. And I will turn us back into being the campaign-winning machine that you know we can be. Now, my plan is to rebuild the Conservative Party and to make you proud again. My mission is to win the next general election, and I have never failed a mission yet. So, conference, you know it. The fight back starts now. We will focus on what the British people need and be absolutely ruthless about delivering it. From healthcare and immigration to security and education, we will deliver. And we can bring down taxes, but not if we treat these symptoms separately. That is a prescription for managed decline. We can only fix the problem if we diagnose the cause. And it starts, as every Conservative knows, with our economy. Real growth, not the illusion of growth that has been boosted by migration, has barely shifted in the past 30 years. Now, that's left us poorer and more vulnerable. We need to free the economy. We need a new Conservative revolution. That's what Margaret Thatcher did. That's what we must do again. And we can do it. Our Conservative mayors have already shown the way. Ben Houcham in Tees Valley, with investment to turn Redcast Steelworks from a derelict ruin to the ground zero of growth for the North East, and Andy Street here in Birmingham, with homes and transport connections that generated investment and brand new jobs. They focused on delivery, not ideology. They understand that Britain needs leaders who just get it done, because Conservative leadership changes lives. Now, I will build an economy that works for you, that delivers homes and jobs for our children, that helps people back to well-paid work, that lets you choose what you do with your money. That's my politics. That's what I will deliver. That's what I mean by a new Conservative revolution. So let's talk about migration. Of course we need an effective deterrent. But we must solve as well as stop. And that's why I'll set a legal cap on net migration at 100,000. Not a target, not an ambition, a cap. But a cap alone won't work. This is about visas, not about foreign courts. Let me tell you something that my opponents probably won't. This isn't simple. We issued the visas because businesses need the staff for our care homes and our hospitals to look after our families. So how do we square this circle? Well, we need to fix migration by fixing the gaps in education and skills, in transport and in housing, so that we can recruit at home and not abroad. Now, I will end the cap on apprenticeships and use the immigration skills charge to invest in further education and train our own people. But it's not just skills. We need higher wages. And for that, businesses need to be able to grow faster with a fantastic, skilled and healthy workforce and less regulation holding them back. Now, to get our people ready for the future, the best education needs to be everywhere for every child. Freeing schools and creating academies has seen our schools improve. In Labour-run Wales and the SNP in Scotland, standards are falling. But here in England, my kids are getting a great education because our Conservative government gave parents choice and trusted teachers to teach. That's what a Conservative revolution delivers. And for our families to stay fit, you know it, we need the best healthcare. In Australia, across Europe, they have better cancer outcomes and better access to doctors. Let's be honest, our health service is not the envy of the world. Our doctors and our nurses are fantastic, but the bureaucrats in charge slow down their ability to deliver. It's not about money. We need to strip away excess regulations and barriers and put the patient at the centre of care. Connecting communities, simpler planning laws, a great education wherever you live, a workforce trained to meet the needs of business, and healthcare that delivers for the patient. It's all about trust. Trust is the foundation of growth, the foundation of the growth that we need to see our country prosper. Trust allows us to simplify our laws and to bring down taxes. Now, my vision of a Conservative Britain is a Britain where people are trusted and free. We need a Conservative revolution in thinking across the government to get there, and the only way that we're going to industrialise our economy and get jobs back here is to have a Conservative revolution now. Now, conference, I've often spoken about foreign affairs, from China and how we need to reduce our dependence, to my warnings about the energy shocks that Russia and Iran could throw at us. All three countries threaten our security, and we need to change how we invest to protect our prosperity. And let's face it, that starts with energy security. We need to build new nuclear power plants again, so that we are never dependent on tyrants. The lesson from Germany is stark. They bet on cheap Russian energy, on fast Chinese growth, and they left their borders open. Now, none of those bets have paid off. Dictators are dictating the terms of trade once more, and that's why we need to stand with our allies. That's why I was proud to be in Kiev and to hear so many cheering Boris Johnson and Ben Wallace for their courage in standing up to Putin. I will always stand for freedom. Now, freedom, as we know, is our greatest strength. There is no weapon, no missile, no tank, nothing more powerful than the courage of free men and women defending what is precious to them. And as chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee and as Security Minister, I have always called out our enemies and warned clearly of the dangers that we face. I was sanctioned by Beijing, by Moscow and by Tehran for the privilege. The same Tehran that overnight launched hundreds of missiles against Israel, a country it has vowed to destroy. And I'm proud of the role played by our armed forces overnight. In an ever more dangerous world, Conference, I will never stay silent in the face of aggression or when our freedoms are threatened. I will always remember the promise I made to keep our country safe. Friends, we need to remember who we serve and how our problems are connected and how we fix them together. We need to give young people the chance to own a home, connect that home to work and that work to growth. That's our route back. That's how we win again, by remembering that conservative principles start with the family and build to the nation, by remembering that conservative economics help you control your own life and your own wealth, by remembering that conservative delivery starts with the patient and the pupil, not the faceless bureaucrat. When we... Now, Conference, we know that when we deliver all three, when we actually deliver what people need, that's when we meet converts, when we bring people to us. We don't make enemies. So, Conference, I will tell you what a conservative is. Someone who believes in Britain, who believes in limited government, who believes in free trade and responsibility to others. Now, we are not afraid of the future, because we are building on the strong foundations of the past. And I'm standing because I believe in Britain. I have fought for Britain, and I've had enough of those who want to manage decline. That's what socialism delivers. That's not who I am, it's not who you are, and nothing is more fatal to a mission than losing faith in the future. Nothing is more fatal to success than setting our ambitions so low that we don't even try. And nothing is more fatal to a nation than giving up on our belief in it. Now, that's why we must win. Not in 10 years, not in 15, but in 5. We can't afford Labour. The country can't afford socialism. We cannot afford to wait. And I will not wait. It's time to seize the moment and turn this around. Now, friends, I get it. You've had enough. So have I. But you have a choice. In this leadership election, you have a choice. And it's a choice about change. My opponents claim that they've got more management experience around the cabinet table. Sure, that's true. But I'm not here to manage. I'm here to lead. My friends, you know it. We're not going to change this party and this country with the same management, the same mantra, the same slogan. The only way to build trust back is to show real change. And that's the new conservative revolution that I promise. That's the change only I can deliver. That's the change only I will bring. Our mission is the prosperity and happiness of the British people, and we start today.
Broken.
Untrustworthy. Selfish.
There were moments during the last 14 years where our party let Britain down.
We forgot who we were.
Forgot about our values.
Forgot about what makes us truly conservative.
And we have to get that back.
And fast.
Because when we are true to our values,
We can achieve so much.
We're the party who over the last 14 years halved crime, legalised equal marriage,
Reformed the welfare state.
Oversaw the creation of 800 jobs a day.
Delivered Brexit.
Increased defence spending and led international efforts for Ukraine.
Gave the vaccine to the world.
and left Labour with the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Yet we spent more time arguing amongst ourselves than lauding our achievements.
We need to unite and rediscover our common purpose once again.
We need a leader who embodies those values.
A leader who has a clear vision and plan.
A leader who can deliver at the highest level.
A leader who can not only communicate with the British public,
But actually bring them, those who voted Labour, Lib Dem or Reform, back with us on our journey. A leader who will put divisions behind us.
Unite our party.
Hold this shambolic Labour government to account.
And not waste any time leading us back to victory.
Small estate.
Lower taxes.
Abolish stamp duty.
Higher military spending.
Unlock aspiration.
Encourage enterprise.
Build a free and safe society.
hold Starmer to account,
And win.
win.
Win the general election.
Let's do this.
Please welcome James Cleverly.
What's the purpose of our party? What's our job? Why are we here? We're currently in opposition, but we don't exist to be in opposition. We're in politics to serve the British people and to make their lives better. It's not our right, but it is our mission, our duty, and intent. So we need to get back on track. But before we can do that, there's something we need to say. Sorry. Sorry on behalf of the Conservative Parliamentary Party who let you down. And we have to be better, much better. And under my leadership, we will be. The British people are never wrong. The British people told us to go and sort ourselves out. Let's not make them tell us again. Because if we wallow in self-pity and blame other parties, if we look backwards instead of forwards, if we focus on what we are against rather than what we are for, if we're complacent and just wait for the political pendulum to swing back to us, we might as well go home now. I hadn't planned to run for leader. I could have taken the easy option, sat this one out, spent more time with my wife, with my boys, with my Warhammer figures. But I went into politics to get things done, not watch from the sidelines, and all the more so after the defeat that we've just had. I need to do this for the party that I love and for the country that I love. My mum came here from Sierra Leone in the 1960s. And my father grew up on a council estate in Downham in southeast London. He qualified as a surveyor and started a small business. She studied nursing and became a midwife in the NHS. And I'm gutted that she didn't live to see me elected and become an MP, or represent our country as Foreign Secretary when I visited Sierra Leone. Because some people love to talk our country down. But this country has given so much to so many people. Including my family. Now, both my parents were in the business of optimism, the business of the future. Because what can be more optimistic than helping people buy their own home, or bringing thousands of newborn children into the world like my mum did? That's what a politician and a political party should be for and should be. Optimistic, believing in the future, but also doing the work to build that future. As you know, my wife, Susie, recently battled with breast cancer. And when we found out she had cancer, it rocked our lives. I could hardly speak. Our boys were distraught. But because of the amazing professionals, the doctors and the nurses of the NHS, her life was saved. So to all those in the NHS, I say thank you. And it's because of them that she sits in this auditorium with us here today. And her courage, determination, resolve, and optimism, her belief in the future, our belief in the future, is why we are here today. And I suspect, ladies and gentlemen, it is also why you are here today. Because tomorrow can be better, and together we can make it better. It's perhaps no surprise that I followed in my parents' footsteps. Small business and then public service. Optimistic, believing in a better future, but also doing the work, doing the hard yards. Because getting from my childhood home to this stage wasn't straightforward. I grew up a mixed-race kid in Lewisham. Now, at 19, I joined the regular army, but I got injured and I had to drop out. So I joined the reserves and served for over 30 years in the Royal Artillery, finishing as a lieutenant colonel. Now, I don't pretend to be a war hero, but I did command a battery in Bristol of 100 soldiers. And one day, I got the call. I got mobilized. I thought I was going to Basra or Baghdad, and I was sent to Luton. At work, I spent a decade in the publishing industry, but like many, I got made redundant. So I set up a small business. And we made some money, never a lot of money. And after the 2008 crash, we made no money at all. So I know what it is like to take risks, to run a small business, to work crazy hours to put food on the table. I know what it's like to stumble and to fall and to get up again and again and again. So when I talk about optimism, it's not just believing that tomorrow can be better than today. It's about doing something to make it happen. My political hero was Ronald Reagan, and he knew what optimism was. Even in the depths of the Cold War, he made Americans want to vote for a conservative. Not reluctantly, but with enthusiasm. And then what did he do? He cut taxes. He cut regulation. He boosted military spending, and he won a landslide. So let's be more like Reagan. Let's be enthusiastic, relatable, positive, optimistic. Let's be more normal. Let's sell the benefits of conservatism with a smile. Because if we do, yes. Because if we do, we can see off the threat from Reform and the Lib Dems and win back Labour and re-energise those Conservatives who stayed at home at the last general election, get them off the sofa to the ballot box and voting Conservative again. And let's make sure that they do it not holding their nose, but with a spring in their step and a smile on their face. And we won't win back those voters by pretending to be something we're not. We win back voters by being honest, by being professional, by being conservative. And let's remind ourselves what our great party has done for this country. It was our party that took children out of factories and put them into schools, started the abolition of the slave trade, created the Metropolitan Police, and gave the United Kingdom its first, second, and third female prime ministers. It was our party that passed equal marriage, quadrupled clean energy, raised education standards. It was our party that delivered Brexit, cut crime, created 800 jobs for every single day that we were in office. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a legacy that we should be proud of. Don't let anyone trash our record. Be proud of our record. And compare that with what we saw at the Labour Party conference just last week. A party drunk on power who lied to the British people. Glasses for passes, favours for friends, swamped in scandal, and, even worse, inflation-busting pay rises to their union paymasters, taken straight out of the pockets of British pensioners. Our plans for defence reversed, a mass release of prisoners, and no plan for our borders. And what did Keir Starmer say just last week? He wants the state to have more control over your lives. A nanny state, closing pubs early, banning smoking outdoors, and even trying to control the price of Oasis tickets. They are completely out of their depth. And we need to be ready. And we need to hold them to account. Not next year, or in 2030, or after that, but now. And we know the Lib Dems won't do it. They're too wet. And in the case of Ed Davey, soaking wet. And Reform can't. They're just a pale imitation of our great party. It is up to us. And never forget, Reform didn't deliver Brexit, we did. Reform didn't cut immigration, I did. And mark my words, we will beat Reform by being the best version of ourselves, not a pale version of anyone else. So no mergers, no deals. And if we are the best version of ourselves, if we sell conservative values, if we're proud of our record and confident in our future, we will win the country. Because Farage and Starmer are two sides of the same coin. They both think that life was better in the past. Farage thinks life was better before we joined the EU. Starmer thinks it was better before we left. And they're both wrong. Our best days are ahead of us. Because just as my parents were in the business of the future, I am in the business of the future. And so we need to reject this 1970s attitude that decline is somehow inevitable, but perhaps we should just fall off the perch slowly. We need to direct our focus, not in the rearview mirror, but at the road ahead. So, conference, how are we going to face the great challenges of our time? The way we always have done when we succeed, by being for stuff again. British science and engineering shaped the modern world. We are the country that gave the world the vaccine twice, the steam engine, the light bulb, the World Wide Web, the bicycle, the tank, the people who split the atom. We need more, yes, we can, both from our party and for our country. We need to build more homes so that we can build a new generation of optimism in the tradition of Macmillan and Thatcher. We need to cut the cost of childcare so people can build a family. We need to cut red tape so we can build the energy and the transport infrastructure we need, but do so more cheaply and more quickly. We need to build, and remake the argument for conservatism, for capitalism, by our actions, not just our words. And we need to get rid of bad taxes, like stamp duty. We need to make sure that work always pays. We need to make sure that work always pays, and that the state never takes more than half of any pound that you have earned. And let's be the party of free markets and freedom, of business and of enterprise. Let's get on their side, but out of their way. These are my values. These are consistent values, not opportunistic. A signpost, not a weather vane. It's what I have always believed in, and it's what I always will believe in. Because conference, talk is easy, doing is hard, and we need a leader who can deliver from day one. Someone who has already done the tough apprenticeship that you need to be the leader of the Conservative Party and our next Prime Minister. I led the Conservatives on the London Assembly, where I reformed and upgraded the London Fire Brigade, taking on the unions and winning. That was a tough apprenticeship. On the Metropolitan Police Authority, I kicked out corrupt coppers, and that was an important moral apprenticeship. As Conservative Party chairman, I got our candidates selected in record time so that we could fight that 2019 general election. And I got our campaign machine ready to fight. And yes, we won the biggest majority since Margaret Thatcher. We got Boris elected and we got Brexit done. And that whirlwind apprenticeship showed me what I need to do to fix our party machine, upgrade it, making it a modern campaigning organisation with better data and better training, so we can have 300 excellent new candidates selected in 18 months, ready to take the fight to Labour, Lib Dems and Reform. And my pledge to you today on candidate selection: no more stitch-ups. Conference, we need to choose someone to lead us who has already done their apprenticeship and get this party winning again. As Foreign Secretary, I strengthened our posture on Iran. I dealt with Putin's nuclear threats. I worked with Ben Wallace to get tanks delivered to Ukraine. And in Beijing, I told the Chinese foreign minister to his face, do not invade Taiwan and lift the sanctions. And I told him directly to lift the sanctions on my parliamentary friends, even those who have decided to run against me. I rejected the advice of Foreign Office officials, and I was the first foreign minister to go to Israel after the 7th of October terrorist attacks. Because leadership is about standing by your values and standing shoulder to shoulder with your allies and friends. And I, today, restate my unwavering support to the people of Israel and their right to defend themselves. I have seen firsthand how dangerous the world is, and that is why I commit to an increase in defence spending to 3% of GDP. Because it's not enough to talk tough. you have to be willing to be tough. It's why, within weeks of becoming Home Secretary, I introduced immigration controls that are now cutting net migration in half. I didn't complain about immigration or walk away from the challenge. I got it down by 300,000 people a year. I deported foreign criminals and terrorists. I stripped citizenship from those who seek to do us harm. And I supported our Jewish community here in the UK, tightening the policing response to the protests about Gaza and holding the police accountable for their actions and their inactions. The point is, we can deliver for the British people once again with the right leader, with me as your leader. Because leadership is about things like making the tough decisions when you get that ugly phone call in the middle of the night about keeping this country safe. And because I've been there, because I know in detail what the government should be doing right now, I know in detail how they're failing. Now is not the time for an apprentice. I'm not doing this because I want to be something. I'm doing this because I want to do something. Renew? Yes. Rebuild? Yes. To deliver for our party? Yes. But mainly to deliver for our country. And the Labour Party has not wasted 1 second in undoing our work. So we must not waste 1 second getting back to work. I can unite this party around Conservative values. I can hold Labour to account for their failures and take us back into government in 4 short years. Because the people in this room, standing for election in May, can't wait a day longer than is necessary for us to get our house in order. There is no time to lose, and I don't lose. So if you want a winner, choose one. Choose someone who can deliver results, who can communicate effectively, and who campaigns relentlessly. Choose someone who you know, and who is tested, and who doesn't hide from the media. Choose someone who is not afraid of the public, but is popular with the public. And choose the candidate who Starmer, Farage, and Davey fear the most. Because I will not accept the status quo. I will not accept defeatism, and I will not accept defeat. Everyone running in this leadership contest needs to ask themselves, do they want to be the leader, or do they want to lead? And I know what I want to do. I want to get the heel of the state off of your neck, get their noses out of your business, and get their hands out of your pocket. As your leader, I will not waste a day dreaming about yesterday. I will use today to make good on the promise of tomorrow. I will deliver a positive vision, a conservative vision. But conference, we must start now. Keir Starmer has been Prime Minister since July the 5th. And since then, we've had 100 reasons to regret it. It's called July the 6th, and July the 7th, and July the 8th. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live under a Labour government for 1 minute more than we must. So it's in our hands, yours and mine, to turn this around. And we can. Because the facts of life, the simple desire to aspire and achieve, to provide safety and security for your family, to own a home, to build a life, and give your children a better tomorrow than today. These are conservative facts. We may have lost our way, but it's time to get back on track, because history shows that while we have no right to govern, we govern when we get it right. So let's unite. Let's rebuild this party of ours, council by council, seat by seat, ward by ward, street by street, one party with one purpose: to turn the page on this useless Labour government, to get to government, to look to the future with one voice and say that it is morning once again in this great country of ours. That must be our mission. That must be our purpose. So join me on this journey, and together we will win, and we will be in the business of the future. Thank you.
I've always grown up with the impression that, Labour was the party for the working man. It felt like there was a Conservative party that was really speaking to what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. Wow,
I cannot deliver difficult decisions.
Now, the point of that video was that you were someone who had not voted Conservative before. What made you choose to vote Conservative in 2019?
The short answer is Brexit. I can already hear people watching this probably groaning at me saying that. But I don't think that you can really get your head around why Boris voted without looking at why people voted for Brexit.
you voted in the general election you just had?
I think like a lot of people, I didn't actually vote. I just didn't feel like any of the parties were going to be able to deliver any of the promises they were making. Conservatives have lost a lot of trust in me. I think they've been extremely poor on the immigration. To me, it feels like we're starting to sink in ship and we're arguing over the morality of plugging the gas. And we've got to really start getting radical. And we've got to really start getting tough on these things. Both for legal and political immigration. I think both of them need addressing.
Yes. Because on the vote, we said we were going to do whatever it takes, and then we didn't do it. How do you feel about the Conservative Party now and politics at the moment?
I mean, I personally feel like I did back in 2016. I just feel politically homeless again. I think in order to get people like myself back, you're going to have to give them a voice again. I think that would go a long way to getting the confidence of communities like this back.
It's really nice to see you. If I was leading the party, and I did the things that we talked about today, would you come back to us?
I think I would.
Please welcome Robert Jenrick.
Hello. It's great to be here. It's great to be home. I'm a Midlands man. I grew up just down the road in Wolverhampton. And it's good to be back. Look, before I tell you about where I want to take this party, where I want to take our country, let me tell you about the place that made me. 50 years ago, in 1974, my dad, Bill, and my mum, Jenny, came here to Birmingham. Dad got a job at the last great iron foundry of the Black Country in Coseley. It was a vast Victorian metalworks that had made the pots and the pans of the empire. It was called Cannon Industries because it had made the cannon for Wellington's army. My dad loved that. Mum and Dad came here to the West Midlands to put down roots, to get on in life. But their dreams were put on hold because Britain was broken. Industries were crippled. Councils were bankrupt. Hope was gone. Then, as now, a new Labour government, so fresh, but already so stale. And what about us? What about the Conservatives in opposition? Well, the truth is, we were broken too. We had drifted into accepting a failed status quo, into believing that the best the Conservative Party can do in government is to manage decline. But in that year, in that momentous year for my family, 1974, our party made a big decision. We chose to change. We chose to change our leadership, to change our policies. We chose to reject defeatism. We reignited our confidence by looking again at our purpose and saying loudly what this party stands for. And the choices we made that year, 1974, led our party to victory in 1979 under one of my heroines, a woman as strong as the iron cast in my dad's foundry, Margaret Thatcher. And friends, her Conservative Party reversed Britain's decline, and it did so by backing people like my mum and dad. They bought a home, they started a family, they founded a small business. They didn't need to tell me what their values were. They lived them. in the sweat and the sacrifice of building that business around their kitchen table, in the love and the security they gave to our family, in the solemn duty and respect they showed to Queen and country, decency, hard work, aspiration, patriotism. Those were their values, cast in iron, built to last. I am so grateful to my parents, and I want to say thank you. I am in politics for the millions of people in our country just like them. Devoted citizens, good neighbours, the people who get up early in the morning to put food on the table for their families. Yes, the people who start small businesses around their kitchen tables. The people for whom there is no pressure group pressing their case, no lobby demanding their so-called rights. So let me tell you, if I am your leader, the pressure group for Britain's hard-working majority will be us, the Conservative Party. That's who I am in politics for. But who is Sir Keir Starmer in politics for? Well, the last 3 months have shown us who. Convicted criminals walking free, illegal migrants given an amnesty, well-paid train drivers given yet more money. All the while, the hard-working, silent majority waiting for huge tax rises, the nation's wealth creators fleeing en masse, and millions of pensioners betrayed. Imagine, friends, imagine how cowardly you have to be to rob poor pensioners just to placate your union paymasters. In fact, that is not just cowardly, that is shameful. That is shameful. Now listen, they have had 14 years to prepare for government. Where's the vision? Where's the boldness? The country just voted for change, and all we've got is more managed decline. Sir Keir Starmer will take the knee, but he will never take a stand. He doesn't even take a stand. He doesn't even take a stand at the football anymore. He's up there. He's up there in the executive box with his mates. Look, it is painful that Starmer can't see what we see. A nation that has given more to the world than any other. A nation brimming with potential, with talent, with so much to offer. Let down only by big government and small-mindedness, by high taxes and low ambition. Starmer sees a Britain fated for decline, needing more migration, more tax, more spend, more woke. The country needs a leader. Instead, with Starmer, we've got an undertaker. And what about the cabinet? What about our new cabinet? Well, Rachel Reeves, as wooden as Pinocchio, and only barely more honest. And then we've got Ed Miliband. Whoever tells you the grown-ups are back in charge, look at Ed Miliband. A Wallace missing his grommet. And then, there's David Lammy, our Foreign Secretary. Living proof that there is a more annoying LBC presenter than James O'Brien. But seriously, friends, if we are going to change this party, if we are going to turn it around, we've also got to be honest about where we've got to and what we did in our 14 years in office. I am so proud of the achievements that we made in government. We reversed the appalling damage done by Gordon Brown to our public finances. We transformed our schools. We unleashed a decade of record levels of employment. We created a fairer welfare system. We got Brexit done, and we stood by Ukraine in her hour of need. We led Europe in the defence of Ukraine. So, friends, I will always celebrate our achievements. But we can't. We can't bury our heads in the sand. Just as we celebrate those achievements, we need to be honest with ourselves. The country just doesn't trust us right now. We've just suffered our worst ever electoral defeat. We lost more seats and we won fewer votes than any government ever. It was a comprehensive defeat, and it needs a comprehensive rethink. So just as I will defend our achievements, I will be painfully honest about our failings. We failed to deliver the strong NHS, the strong economy, and yes, the strong border that we promised. Friends, we must never fail our people again. And the truth is this: if we are going to change this party, to restore the trust and the confidence of the people, if we're going to tackle together the immense challenges our country faces, we are going to have to build something new, a new Conservative Party. That is what I call for today. A new Conservative Party, nothing less than that, built on the rock of our proudest traditions and noblest values, but a new Conservative Party. And if I am your leader, that is what together we will build, a new Conservative Party. Now, you know that I loathe empty rhetoric, big words and little action. That is part of the reason why we are where we are. You know that I will take a stand. You saw me take a stand last year. And frankly, it is the only reason why I won my seat of Newark at the general election. Against all the polls and the pundits, the only seat that our party won in the whole of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. Because my constituents, to whom I owe so much, knew that I took a stand. For them, for the country, for the change we need. So, today, let me set out 5 changes that this new Conservative Party must make. 5 stands that this new Conservative Party will take. And let me begin with this one. We must take a stand to secure our borders. We must secure our borders. 120,000 people have entered our country on small boats on our watch. 99% of them are still here, costing us billions. Frankly, there is no future for this party unless we take a stand to answer this problem. And the way to do that, we all know, is to detain and swiftly deport everyone who comes into our country illegally. But we will never do that. We will never do that. It is impossible unless we leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And we free ourselves from Tony Blair's Human Rights Act. These institutions are creating an arsenal of laws by which illegal entrants frustrate their removal. We have to change that. You can't ignore the European Court. We're a common law nation. You can't reform the European Court. It requires unanimity. 46 countries from Iceland to Andorra to Hungary. It's a fantasy. The choice before us is leave or remain. I'm for leave. I'm for the country. I am for the country of Magna Carta, of the habeas corpus, of the Bill of Rights, defending our own freedoms and liberties. I am for finishing the job that we started with Brexit and restoring to our people and our Parliament its sovereignty. So under my leadership, the new Conservative Party will stand for a new Great Reform Act, one that leaves the ECHR, repeals Tony Blair's Human Rights Act, and writes a British Bill of Rights. That is how, my friends, that is the only way that we get the foreign terrorists, the criminals, off our streets and out of our country. That is the only way that together we will end illegal migration for good. And the age of mass migration, that must end too. It's not making us any richer. It's putting immense pressure on our housing, our hospitals, our roads. And if we're honest with ourselves, the sheer scale and the lack of integration is sapping at our culture and our national cohesion. If I am your leader, I will fight for the effective freeze in net migration our country needs. And this time, we will cast it in iron. We will do it with a vote in Parliament, so that each and every one of us can look the British public in the eye and say, we mean it. We're going to do it this time. And if we do that, we give our country the effective breathing space that we need. Will we be open to the best and the brightest? Yes, absolutely. Will we be open to the world and his wife and all their extended family? No, not anymore. And under my Conservative Party, never, ever again. Thank you. And secondly, we must take a stand on net zero. Since 2001, energy prices in our country have quadrupled. Factories have closed. Families have suffered. And this is all because we have become so reliant on expensive forms of energy, like offshore wind. Now, Ed Miliband wants to phase out gas over the next 5 years. Now, in 2015, we knew that putting Ed Miliband and power together was a very bad idea. How right we were. We have to oppose his plan. It's going to send energy prices sky high. But we also have to oppose the root of the problem, the serious issue. And that's not the principle of net zero, but the crazy interim binding targets put into law by Gordon Brown. It's the mad targets, the carbon budgets, that don't take any account of innovation that's driving the mad policies. So I say that with our new Conservative Party, we will stand for cutting emissions, but we will never do it, never, on the backs of working people and by further deindustrialising our great country. And we must also take a stand to get Britain building again. Our country needs more homes. We need more industry and infrastructure. So I have a hard message for all of us today. If we want to be the party of low tax, of growth, of business, as I do, and I know you do too, we also need to be the party of fixing the broken system that stops us building the homes, the factories, the data centres, the roads, the trams, the trains, the investment that Britain desperately needs. We love this country. We will protect its beautiful countryside. We will ensure that local people have their say. But our new Conservative Party will stand alongside the scientist in need of lab space. It will stand alongside the town in need of better roads. And yes, it will stand alongside the 20 and 30-somethings, trapped in their childhood bedrooms, dreaming of a home of their own, dreaming of getting on in life, waiting for their lives to begin. That's what we will do as a party. We will build our party. Our party will stand for the most ambitious programme of urban densification and regeneration in our country's modern history. We will stand for getting Britain building again. And we will also take a stand for a small state that actually works, not a big state that fails. Look, the last election was as much a referendum on our health service as it was on our borders. We have 20% more money, more doctors, more nurses in the NHS today than we had 5 years ago, and yet our hospitals barely treat any more patients. Our courts, our prisons, our police, our universities, our welfare system, none of this is working as it should. Now, Labour isn't going to fix any of this. The unions won't let them. We know that. But the new Conservative Party can and should. We need to do for all our public services what we did for schools in the 2010s. Empower the good leaders, kick out the bad ones, be relentless in driving up standards and having zero tolerance for failure. That must be at the core of our mission as a party. Look, I am proud when I look around this hall today at the Conservative family and I see the small business owners like my mum and dad. I see the entrepreneurs. I see the business leaders. But where are the teachers, the doctors, the nurses? Where are the prison officers and the police officers? We must stand with them as well. We must stand for them. Our new Conservative Party will stand for building a state that actually works and the public services that every Briton deserves. And finally, we must stand for our nation and our culture, for our identity and our way of life. Why is it that so much of the British establishment seems to put Britain last? I'm told that we only have enough munitions to last a few weeks in war, and yet our country is giving foreign aid to parts of the world richer than our own. So if I am your leader, I will stand for cutting our bloated foreign aid budget and for spending 3% of GDP on our defence. Finally doing what government is meant to do, the first duty of any government: keep the British people safe. And what of our culture? Well, how have we come to the point where a teacher from Batley remains in hiding because in a class on free speech, of all things, they showed a cartoon of Muhammad? How have we come to the point, on our watch, in which the NHS has facilitated thousands of children to have life-changing, life-altering surgery? How have we come to the point where the RAF, the Royal Air Force, has chosen pilots on the basis of race and gender? Well, I say, our new Conservative Party, we will be tolerant, but we will stand for never tolerating any of this ever again. We are the lucky inheritors of unparalleled national identities: British, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, English. And our new Conservative Party will stand for carrying the torch for these identities and handing it on to our children and our grandchildren. with pride, with passion, and with purpose. So, my friends, securing our borders by leaving the ECHR and a cap in Parliament to end the era of mass migration. Yes to net zero, but no to Ed Miliband's mad plans. Getting Britain building again. Defending our nation and our culture. Building a small state that actually works, not a big state that fails. 5 changes that our new Conservative Party will make. 5 stands that this new Conservative Party will take. As your leader, I will take a stand. The new Conservative Party will take a stand. Stand up for what is right. Stand up to those who are wrong. Stand alongside the hard-working men and women of this country who make Britain great and can make her greater still. Our party is at its best when we, friends, are the trade union of the working people of this country. From our seaside resorts to our rural outposts, from our industrial heartlands to our village greens, from world-class cities like this one, to the towns that I grew up in and I'm proud to represent. Britain rises when all our people rise, all of them. So let's help them to rise again. 1974, 2024, a country facing huge challenges, a Labour government already out of answers, an opposition, a Conservative opposition, facing a big choice to go along with a failed consensus that is driving our country into the ground, or to have the courage, to summon the courage to change course, to unite around the practical solutions to the challenges that we face, and to change, really change. I want to lead that change. I want to be that change. So come with me, join me, work with me in this new Conservative Party, and together let's take a stand for the country that we love. Thank you. Thank you, Conference. Thank you.
In this room and outside feel frustrated and angry that the political class has failed to deliver on its promises.
There's no trust in politicians from any party, left, right, centre.
Trust and confidence in our Westminster politicians is at the lowest ebb that I can remember.
Too often they're saying one thing, and then when they get elected they do a different thing.
People have become increasingly cynical.
There is a lack of trust in politics and in politicians because too often people hear things but don't see the results. One of the things I hear quite frequently, you're all the same, all the parties are the same. We are not the same. The Conservative Party is different. The Conservative Party is special. Our values are the values of the British people, and we need to start talking about them again.
We're going to need a leader who will fight tooth and nail for our Conservative values.
What we need is a politician who's prepared to have the courage of their convictions.
We need something different.
Kemi is the right leader for the Conservative Party.
She's our best chance to restore faith in politics, to try and fix the system.
Ever since I've met her, she struck me as a Prime Minister in waiting.
I worked with Kemi closely on the Board of Trade, but she believes in Britain.
She's an engineer that's honest, and she's ready to get stuff done.
Kemi has the tenacity, the passion, the drive.
Kemi is the person to bring people together and renew not only the party but the country as a whole.
she really is the one to be trusted. She's not afraid to be unpopular, but she will say the thing that needs to happen.
This is a pivotal moment. The Conservative Party must transform like we've done before. This is our time. We are the future. I'm ready. I know you're ready. So let's renew.
Please welcome Kemi Badenoch.
It is time to tell the truth. The truth about our party, the truth about our politics, the truth about our future. For too long, politicians have been scared of the truth. For too long, politicians have hidden behind spin. For too long, politicians have told the public what they wanted to hear and then done their own thing. Well, I say enough. It's time to remember who we are, what we stand for, and what we want our country to be. 7 years ago, I stood on this stage, so proud to be a Conservative Member of Parliament. We had just lost our majority, but our party was still in government, and that was all that mattered. But I am no longer a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed backbencher. I am a veteran of 4 government departments and a former cabinet minister. I have seen the system from the inside. Ladies and gentlemen, the system is broken. It is not enough just to be in government, because you can be in government and not have power. Without a plan to fix the system, you end up just announcing policies, doing media, and waiting for something to happen. And then you run into trouble, as this Labour government are quickly finding out. For us, it led to a reckoning, a historic defeat, worse than 1997, a defeat that could extinguish the Conservative Party. We have to get this right. We have to renew, and then we can regain the trust of the British people. Otherwise, the left will get more time to ruin our country. And they've started quickly, haven't they? I actually thought it would take them longer to fall apart. But it is clear that this Labour government will leave a mess behind. We will not manage that decline. The Conservative Party does not manage decline. The Conservative Party reverses decline. Our country needs us. We must not let it down. For this to work, we need to go back to first principles. Why are we Conservatives? So much of what made me a Conservative came from my parents. My late father was full of wisdom. He used to say, "Never take your spouse for granted." He also said, "Never run for fun because you'll get bad knees." But he also taught me responsibility. He would say 80% of what happens to you is down to you. He was right. And as a GP, he taught me how to solve problems. He would say, if you get the diagnosis wrong, the treatment won't work. I miss my dad. He taught me the most important lesson of all. Never be afraid to do the right thing. No matter what people say about you, just do the right thing. My father taught me not to be afraid. I was born here, but I grew up in a place where fear was everywhere. You cannot understand it unless you've lived it. Triple checking that all the doors and windows are locked, waking up in the night at every sound, listening as you hear your neighbors scream as they are being burgled and beaten, and wondering if your home will be next. When you've experienced that kind of fear, you're not worried about being attacked on Twitter. You appreciate how rare and precious it is to live in a country with security, democracy, equality under the law, and above all else, freedom. Free speech, free enterprise, free markets, conservative freedoms, conservative principles. I am not a conservative because I studied politics at university. I'm an engineer. I am not a conservative because my family always voted conservative. I am a conservative because I have seen what happens when a country loses sight of those principles, and that must not happen here. But if conservative principles are so great, why aren't we in government anymore? The truth is, we lost faith and stopped acting like conservatives. We stopped being leaders and became managers. We spoke right and governed left, and when we went after Labour votes, we lost our own. There is no greater example than net zero. We set a target with no plan on how to meet it, just so politicians could say we were the first country to do so. Now we have a net zero strategy addicted to state subsidy, making energy more expensive and hurting our economy. I am not a climate change skeptic, but I am a net zero skeptic. I did not become an MP to deliver an agenda set by Ed Miliband. Promises must come with a plan. Plans must be based on principles. That is the conservative way. But in government, we did not always keep our promises. We promised to lower taxes. They went up. We promised to lower immigration. It went up. Why? Because the Treasury said high immigration was good for the economy, but we knew it was not good for our country. And we did not always defend our values. We did not defend capitalism. Capitalism does not mean corporatism. It does not mean monopolies. It means free markets and competition. We didn't always protect those principles. Like Labour, we raised taxes on business, corporation tax, capital gains tax, we taxed dividends, and we regulated like Labour. So instead of encouraging people to start and grow a business, it got harder and harder. Economics is not just some technical exercise. It's about people, their hopes and their aspirations. It's how we help the poorest in society. In the 80s, our party gave this country a golden age of wealth creation. Where is that now? Look at the hypocrisy of Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, who target savers and wealth creators while taking money from a millionaire. The Conservatives have to be the party of wealth creation. Wealth is not a dirty word. It supports jobs and families. It pays for our schools and our health service. We should defend it and encourage it. We need to stop being afraid of defending our beliefs. Those beliefs are needed now more than ever. They are needed now more than ever because a new political force has risen. Something I have been fighting all my political career: identity politics. Like the 1970s, we face a battle of ideas against the left and its desire for ever greater social and economic control. It is socialism returned, socialism in a suit. The British public knows that socialism doesn't work. They know. But if you give it a new label, you can sneak it in. You can promote class warfare under the banner of equality. You can take freedom and choice away from families by telling them that Ofsted inspection reports are unfair. If you call communism environmentalism, you can close down businesses, block the roads, and stop people going to work. This new politics has made us afraid to defend the people who need us, like young conservatives. They tell me they are afraid to share their politics with other students because they'll be attacked, that they are marked down by lecturers because of their beliefs. We have let young conservatives down. We need to defend them, champion them, and give them a party they can be proud of. But other people need us too, like women. For too long, government stayed silent as women were sacked for saying that a man cannot be a woman. I fought for them while Labour called them bigots. And it wasn't until the SNP put a sex offender in a women's prison that they understood the fight I was leading. We won that battle. Nicola Sturgeon has gone, and Labour now accepts our arguments. We are conservatives, elected to conserve what is great about our country. Thank you. We cannot sit by as the left denigrate our history and pull down our monuments. We must not be afraid, as we were in Batley. We must not be afraid to get involved, where a teacher was driven into hiding by Islamist thugs, or when the very worst crimes were committed, when young girls were groomed and raped for years in Rotherham and Rochdale, and nothing happened. Nothing happened because those in charge were scared of being called racists. And then the system hid behind the Human Rights Act and failed to deport the child abusers and allowed them to walk the streets where their victims live. Well, enough. I am not afraid. This stealthy poisoning of our society needs to stop. And let's face it, the Liberal Democrats are not going to defend our country. Unlike the left, we know right from wrong. But we allowed ourselves to be bound by aggressive identity politics, by a treasury whose rules were written by Gordon Brown, and a legal system re-engineered by Tony Blair. You may think Blair and Brown were defeated in 2010, but the truth is the left never left. It's time to make a change. Ministers need to be able to make decisions that aren't endlessly challenged in the courts. If people don't like those decisions, there are elections. If the law says the government can't deport a foreign child abuser, then the law is an ass. and it means it's time for politicians to change it. And when the government relies on economic modelling, which doesn't grasp the realities of immigration, we know it's time to make a change. So here is what we are going to do. We are going to rewrite the rules of the game. If I become leader, we will immediately begin a once-in-a-generation undertaking, the sort of project not attempted since the days of Keith Joseph in the 1970s. A comprehensive plan to reprogram the British state, to reboot the British economy. A new blueprint for the great machine of our country, one that goes far beyond the relationship with the EU or the ECHR, a plan that considers every aspect of what the state does and why it does it. A plan built on the principles and priorities of our nation. A plan that looks at our international agreements, at the Human Rights Act, the Equality Act, at judicial review and judicial activism, at the Treasury and the Bank of England, at devolutions and quangos, at the civil service and the health service, at how we use power to give power to the British people. We will rewire, reboot, and reprogram. Nothing is more exciting to me. I am an engineer, and engineers do not hide from the truth. This work cannot be the work of just one woman. It has to be the work of a huge team, a team that goes way beyond Westminster. Our party is not a club or a clique. We're not just the ERG, the TRG, or One Nation. We are one Conservative party. We are a movement, a conservative movement. And I will always defend that cause. Some people say I like a fight. I can't imagine where they got that idea. But it's not true. I do not like to fight, but I'm not afraid to fight. I don't fight for the sake of fighting, but I do fight for you. Every day of the last Parliament, I fought for Conservative values. I fought for them even when I was told it wasn't in my interest. I fought for women's rights to safe spaces and children's rights to grow up in their own time. I fought against those who seek to divide our country based on race. I fought for the future of my 3 children and for your children. I will always fight against left-wing nonsense. I'm sad to be in opposition, but there's a part of me that's excited because opposition is an opportunity to make Angie uncomfortable, to make Rachel wriggle, and make Starmer sweat. We are going to have fun. They thought that all they had to do was get us out, but they don't have a plan. They are not up to the job. They will let our country down, and we must be ready to replace them. My campaign is not about me. It's about all of us. It's called Renewal 2030 because we have to renew. And 2030 is likely the first full year we could have in government. We have it in our power to make the 2030s a golden decade, a time of renewal and growth. Not just growth in GDP or GDP per capita, but growth that most people can feel. Growth in our party and our country, an age that will leave a meaningful legacy for the British people for decades to come. A renewal based on personal responsibility, family, sovereignty, and capitalism. As Trade Secretary, I saw it all over the world. Capitalism, trade, and enterprise reduce poverty. Socialism creates poverty. Government prides itself on growing the economy. But government does not create growth. Business creates growth. Government needs to get out of the way. Any government that forgets that will start to think it knows better than business. It will allow Ed Miliband to build things like a great British energy company. Well, I've had a look at it. It doesn't produce energy, it's not a company, and there's nothing great about it. Government needs to be the servant of the market, not its master. It needs to protect fair play and proper competition. But the wealth of the country comes from the people who work in it, not the people who live off it. It comes from the businesses built by the brilliance of those who put in the time and take the risks. We will help them to shoot for the stars. We will help a new generation to build families and homes, to build careers and businesses, acquire capital, property, investments, and security. We will take the shackles off the economy so that it can fly and take the country with it. After we have picked and unpicked the damage done by this Labour government, my vision for beyond 2030 is this: for Britain to be a country where people can find a shared identity, 4 nations, but one united kingdom. A country where being a British citizen means more than just having a British passport. A country where people can be committed to each other, irrespective of their religion or what they look like. A Britain that is friends with its neighbours, but will always proudly protect its national interests. A Britain at ease with itself, a Britain that believes in itself. And that sort of Britain can only come about because of renewed conservative principles. And the time to start that renewal is right now.
Wow. 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 So, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. In a few weeks' time, one of our excellent candidates will be elected as the next leader of our party. And our new leader, whoever he or she is going to need to hit the ground running, starting with some big local elections in May next year. All 4 candidates have put forward a compelling vision for the future of our country based on our shared conservative values. It will be your duty, the members' duty, to consider carefully who is best placed to take us back into government again. And once our new leader is in place, we will unite behind them. We will prove once again why the Conservative Party can and should be trusted to lead our country. As we leave conference, let us commit to rebuild, renew, revitalise our party at every level together. A party united in purpose, optimistic, forward-looking and ambitious. And now, please join me in welcoming back our leadership candidates, Tom Tugendhat, James Cleverly, Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch.
Please stand for the national anthem.